What's up you guys, hope you're having an awesome day. I'm your host Ayman Hassan and welcome back to another video. Now okay, doppelgangers, I have always been interested in this topic. I swear I've seen my friends' doppelgangers on the street and I always do like triple takes and I'm like, wait, they're not even in this country. Clearly that's not them. Many people in the comments have said my doppelganger is Mia Khalifa. Yes, I read you guys' comments. I feel like just because we're both brown and have glasses does not make us doppelgangers, but okay, I'll let you guys have that one. Anyway, Abby hit you with part 1, so here I am with the top 10 scary doppelganger stories part 2. Before I get into the video, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our sponsors for this video, Vitali. Now Vitali is a Toronto-based jewelry brand that specializes in unisex metal renewable jewelry. And some of my favorite pieces are this bracelet right here, which is called Kickback, this necklace which I bloody love, it's called Safeguard, you can find them on the website. And if you think these jewelry pieces are your vibe, are your brand, are your aesthetic, you can use the code TOP10 on their website for 20% off. The link is going to be in the bio below as well. Starting us off with number 10 is EMILIE SAGEE. I want to say SAGEE, people around the office are like SAGEE, I'm not really sure. And I feel like this woman was the final boss of doppelgangers and you guys are about to agree with me. So EMILIE was a normal school teacher, very good at her job, except for the fact that she had 19 different jobs within 16 years. In 1845, the school she was working at finally found out why that was. EMILIE's doppelganger was seen everywhere. Once, while teaching a class, 13 students witnessed her doppelganger right next to her, mirroring all her movements. It then sat beside her while she ate, while she had no idea it was even there, despite everyone being able to see it. In another instant, she went out of the class to pick some flowers in the garden right outside, and 42 girls in her class saw her doppelganger sitting at her desk. While EMILIE was outside, they could see her outside the window and in the classroom. Some even tried approaching the doppelganger and found they could pass right through it, but that it felt like a thick fabric. Even though she never saw it, she would always become powerless and groggy whenever it manifested. Coming in at number 9, we have the parents. I swear down if I saw doppelgangers of my parents, I would legit shit myself and continue shitting myself for at least 3 days. So this story was shared by Reddit user O'Carth, who said one morning they woke up in bed and their dad came into their room and told them to wake up before going down to the kitchen. At that point the user was like, okay, maybe I should wake up, but not entirely. So they started watching YouTube videos in bed, as I'm sure most of you are probably doing as we speak. 10 minutes later, the user's mum is going to the kitchen and does and says the exact same thing as her dad, even though the user was very clearly awake. When they eventually got out of bed, they went to their parents' room to see their parents fast asleep in bed. Freaked out and confused, they woke them up to ask if both of them had told them to wake up as they were going to the kitchen, and both of them said no. So who the hell was walking into her room? That is my question. At number 8, we have the Ouija-induced doppelgangers part 1. This one comes from Redditor Celestial E-Spirit, who said when she was about 16, she was really into Ouija boards and playing around with them. But she had no idea that what she was doing was about to unleash some major doppelganger shit. One day, the user was sitting in the living room with her best friend when her mum walked in carrying the groceries. Except it was her mum, but a few years younger. Like exact same woman, exact same everything, just less wrinkles. They said hi to her, which the mum ignored, and watched as she went straight into her brother's room. 10 minutes later, thinking this was weird now, the user got a sick feeling and went upstairs to find her mum nowhere to be found. When she came back downstairs, her real mum was there walking through the door wearing completely different clothes. Filling at number 7 slot are the Ouija-induced doppelgangers part 2. Now if seeing 2 of her mum wasn't bad enough, the next doppelganger victim was the user's brother. One night her mum was talking to him on the phone as he said he was on his way home. The minute they hung up, the brother walked through the door, talked to them for a while, and then went to the bathroom. 15 minutes later, he still hadn't come out of the bathroom, so the user was like, what the hell? I know he's not having a shit, so what exactly is he doing? She knocked and asked if he had fallen asleep and got no response. The next minute, her real brother walked into the room and everyone was freaked out because they had all just witnessed the brother already come in and go to the bathroom. The mum then slept with the brother in his room that night to make sure all was okay all throughout the night. The weirdest part was that both doppelgangers had darker eyes than the original people. Something demon-like going on. Now at number 6 is the mum. This one was shared by Reddit user Hyperham51197, who said she was talking to her dad in the hallway at home one night and both of them saw the mum walk past them into her room and close the door. They thought nothing of it and kept talking and eventually went to watch TV in the living room where they found the mum asleep on the sofa. The father-daughter duo looked at each other like he had just found out that he was not the father. Flabbergasted is the word. Completely flabbergasted. They both then went to the bedroom to see the door not just closed but locked. Neither of them went inside, and the dad decided to sleep on the floor that night instead of venturing into that room. Good call, I would have done the same. Coming in at number 5 is the missionary conversation. This one was shared by Redditor I Am Not Hari Selden, who said he was walking home one afternoon when he saw 2 Mormon missionaries in the distance. One of the girls suddenly waves at him and calls him over by name, so he goes over there. They start talking, and this girl clearly knows who he is acting like they're friends, all the while the guy has no idea who she is. He was desperately trying to figure out whether he had met her before, and clearly she could tell, and reminded him that they had had a very long conversation on her friend's porch a few days ago. And he was like, maybe you met my brother, and she replied, I mean, unless you guys are identical twins, then I think not. And I mean, siblings tend to look alike, but the user explained they definitely were not identical twins. They didn't even look that similar. So who the hell did she meet the first time? His doppelganger. At number 4 is the staring. This one comes from Reddit user Don, who said his sister saw her own doppelganger. Not the sister's doppelganger, but the user's doppelganger. One day her sister was just chilling on the computer, and at around 12 PM the user came in, stared at the sister and what she was doing before leaving. But the user wasn't even home at that time. She was at school and didn't come back till 4 PM. When she did get home, the sister asked her why she'd been staring at her so weirdly earlier in the afternoon, to which she replied, I only just got home. Oh, that's not nice. Filling at number 3 slot is Sir Frederick CARNE RASCH. Now, Frederick was a British Conservative politician who later went on to become an elected Member of Parliament for Essex South East back in 1886. In 1906, Frederick was sick in bed with the flu, so he couldn't come to a few debates that were going on, but apparently his doppelganger could. A fellow Parliament member, Sir Gilbert Parker, saw him sitting on the floor during the debates and went to tell him he hoped that he was feeling better. Parker got no response, and when he looked back at him, he literally vanished. Parker then went to tell Frederick about the situation, which he laughs off, saying he really wanted to be there, so maybe he subconsciously just sent his doppelganger there. However, it became less funny in the months afterwards when other Parliament members continued poking and prodding him to make sure he was there and real and not a ghost. Now at number 2 is the husband and dad. This one's from Redditor Shubbykins, who claims she's seen the doppelgangers of both her dad and her husband. Plot twist, not the same people. You nasty. Now one morning she was in the hallway when she saw her husband walking away from her towards the bedroom. She called out to him and he ignored her, so she followed him to the bedroom to find him nowhere to be found. Turns out he was upstairs the entire time. He hadn't even gone downstairs or into the bedroom. The case with her dad was that one day he was unloading things from his truck and told that he was going to bring them through the back door of the house. But the user was in the kitchen that the back door led to and heard a noise at the door, and through the window she could see her dad bending down like he was about to tie his shoelace. She ran to the door to try and help him out, to see her dad nowhere to be found yet again. Take a shot for every time I've said that in this video. Instead, he was sitting inside his truck, which he couldn't have managed to reach in 2 seconds as it was way down the driveway. And finally, at number 1 is Vice Admiral George Tyron. Tyron was a British admiral that died in 1893 when his flagship, the HMS Victoria, collided into the HMS Camperdown near Lebanon. He was commanding 2 columns of the ship when he told them to turn toward each other, which was a rookie mistake. I'm not even an admiral and I know that. They rammed into each other, the one he was in sank like a brick, and he died knowing the death of 357 other men was also on his hands. Literally his last words was, "This is entirely my fault," and I find that hilarious. At the exact same time of his death, his wife was having a fancy party at their London home. Out of nowhere, the guests saw George dressed in his full uniform walking down the stairs right through the drawing room to the front door. Just as he was about to leave the house, he disappeared altogether in front of their eyes. Someone make it make sense, because I certainly don't know how to make it make sense. And that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed part 2 of this series. Let me know what you thought below. Again, shout out to Vitaly, use our code TOP10, and I've been your host Eamon Hassan, and I'll catch you next time. Bye! One day her sister was just chilling on the computer and around when she did get home, the sister asked why had she been filling at number 3 slot is Sir Frederick CARNE. Parker then went to tell Frederick about the intent. What the hell is that? And I feel like this woman was the final boss of doppelgangers, and you guys are about to agree with me. Is that what I said? Emily?